late night YouTube talk show. And so excited to be back for another live stream and get a chance to connect and to hear some of your thoughts out there as to where we're at now and where we're heading. And so today has been somewhat of a awkward day in the fact that I'm veering off the typical pathway of talking, getting away from the monetary financial issues that are well laid out. Everybody kind of know where we stand with that. But on the social slash, you name everything else, kind of feel like I wanted to talk about that and get some thoughts and ideas as to how and what solutions are, call to actions or whatever they might be. So let's talk about that tonight. So welcome to RTD Live Talk, Detroit's #1 late night YouTube talk show. Excited to be back. My name is Mike, the host. And as always, I want to share my little 2 cents and then open the phone lines. And then we can dive right into it because I want to hear from everybody. And as always, for those that have an opinion or have some steps or some call to action or whatever it might be respectful, of course, of the subject matter, but yet also keep it real. And so definitely want to make sure we are able to communicate without having to go far off the cuff as far as not being productive with this talk. So with that being the case, let me check in via chat. We have Spirit King, we got Shane, Excalibur, we got Nick. Looks like I'm early. It says Batman. We got Spirit. We got Richard. Ryan says, Mike, tell us more about Jesus and really that is a monetary and that really that is the monetary system. I'm sure definitely tonight we're going to go there a little bit. So definitely open to having that type of discussion. The feminist utopia. We got America's DeVille. All right. So I appreciate everybody joining us. We got Terrence J. Paler. Some people just want to say they were part of history. Very true. So there's many ways of looking at this, but from earlier, for those that had a chance to check out the little video I did earlier, it was from the RTD Instagram page. And so occasionally I go over there and go live. And so earlier today, just had an idea of checking in with the Instagram group and finding out what their thoughts was on this matter. But I was really been assessing this, especially getting a chance to watch what's happening around the Metro Detroit area and how Detroit not only is the downtown Detroit, rather, has been pretty much a hot spot. To my knowledge, not much violence. I haven't heard any stories of looting and rioting outright other than just having a fatality this past weekend. That's kind of the worst that I've heard from the city of Detroit. I'm sure it could be worse, but I just haven't heard about it. But yet we got New York and LA and all types of places where they're going straight out bananas right now. So I'm watching some protests that's live on YouTube. And I share my thoughts as to how I believe that there's multiple agendas at play here. And so one thing that's different nowadays than it was, 40, 50 years ago during the heights of the civil rights movement is that we have social media now. And on top of that, as the person just mentioned, people just want to be a part of something, not really having anything to stand on or not really bringing any actionable solutions or steps to take to making true change. And so I'm thinking like, okay, everyone's protesting. There's a lot of sweat out there. During the daytime, it's peaceful, but at night it gets crazy in major areas there. And as I hinted at, the fact that the movements they were initially meant in response to a tragedy that happened last week. And since then they've grown, but I think they lost the original meaning of what it meant to get out and protest and to stand up for what you believe as far as, equality or justice. So those are all things that I'm trying to figure out. How do we wrap our minds around those things to actually look for solutions or options or strategies? So the question I threw out earlier in the video was, what does justice look like? And what is equality in this world, which is basically fallen? It's 2 tiers here. It's good, bad, evil versus good, you name it. And so I've never known equality. I've never known justice outright in the sense that I think people would like to get some of that. So I want to find out, what do you guys think? Am I completely off the cuff, or when all this marching is said and done, what's the desired outcome? And that's kind of what I want to start off with tonight. So feel free to let me know what your thoughts are. For those that are actively participating, whether during the day rallies or the evening rallies, other than just being a part of something, what would change look like if you were to snap your finger and tomorrow have the type of change, or have an outcome. What's that desired outcome? And that's what I want to talk about a little bit, as well as whatever else comes up. So feel free to chime in and go from there. But I'll check in via chat, and then we'll go from there. It says AAs are better off using our money and skills to gain foothold in Africa. Are better off using their money and skills to gain a foothold in Africa, African American. So that's I've been thinking about all types of little action steps or things to bring up for tonight's discussion. So we definitely can touch on that, because let me get this phone line. Let me get this going, and we can discuss that. All right, so we got a call. Let's take this first call. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? Hello? Going once, going twice. Anybody there? All right. Give me a call back, and we should be good to go. Hopefully everything works well as far as being able to have some calls. And so we'll keep it moving. Until the meantime, Spirit King says, rethinking about Microsoft MSN fired 20 to 30 article writers and is replacing them with AI automated systems. Yeah, I'm not surprised at that at all. There's going to be a lot of issues with employment going back into this new norm we're facing. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from? Hello?
Hey, Mike.
Hey there. How you doing? Can you mute your computer or the YouTube so I can hear you?
Mike.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. What's your thoughts on this matter? What will life look like after the protest? What are we protesting for, actually?
Well, let me say, this is Bob from Paris, Illinois. I've called you a few times.
Okay, appreciate you.
Yeah. I'm a Christian. I know you're a Christian. Personally, no man's going to change any of this.
Mm-hmm.
And who's holding the cards here?
Good point.
Yeah, what's everything that's going on? Who's holding the cards?
Yeah, the same system that orchestrated all this.
Right, exactly. So we're not going to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of us, I've been thinking about this. Here, I think they're really ready to just bring it all down.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go after the Second Amendment people, get people that have guns. I think they're going to really go in and try and do that.
Yeah. I don't doubt it.
I could be wrong, but I just the way all this is going, this is all a setup.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I agree, man.
But we'll see. The whole thing to me is I don't care, because it's a simple fact that where's your trust? If you're trusting in Christ and He's the only answer,
mm-hmm.
that's what we got.
Yeah.
We're going to have to go through some stuff, of course. None of this is fun.
Yeah.
But, read the book of Acts. Look what those guys went through. So
much different level of persecution, that's for sure. But hey, I appreciate you calling in. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and trying to get as many thoughts as we can tonight.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah, be good. Okay, appreciate that thought there. As always, give me a call. Let's talk. I'm curious to find out, what do you think? And that's where for the most part, I've just really been thinking about this all day, reading comments from the video, whatnot, and really trying to, because there's a good amount of people out on the streets right now. And so I actually was watching, I'll put this on the screen here, was actually watching some protests. And so for the most part, every state now has curfews, and not many people are actually abiding by that. So there's people out in the streets, and it's when the sun goes down, that's when the knuckleheads start acting a fool. And those same people that are acting a fool, for the most part, they're going to be the ones that I think will position our entire country in a very unfavorable way, because if this continues at the rate that it is continuing, there's going to be boots on the ground already outside of what's already out there. And it further plays into a totalitarian type of state, because one of my biggest concerns is that the protesting continues, and in the evening there's rioting and looting, of which, as I mentioned, majority of the people out there have already been the movements have been infiltrated by paid actors that I would imagine I wouldn't even begin to know, but I'm curious to find out what you think. If we were to guess, how many people in this crowd that we're watching right now are playing the good person role, the good Samaritan? We care, we're here to support, we're here to show our love and this and whatever. But then as soon as the sun goes down, that person right there, they know where the bricks are stashed at. They know they've been paid. They got an agenda. And it's those individuals that make everyone else's efforts look like it was done for no reason. And it further makes the cause in and of itself of none effect. So all this protesting, you can protest every day, all day, but in the evening when you got fools that come out to do damage because they have an agenda from a higher source of people, there's going to be no desired outcome. And that's something that we got to really figure out, because you got good people mixed in with bad. You got the wheat and the tares going together right now, and everyone's going to suffer. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, this is Daryl Brown from Atlanta, Georgia.
Daryl from Atlanta. How you doing, my man? What are your thoughts on this? What are some things that can be done or come about in a positive note from this?
Oh, man. Well, I've been researching because I heard you on your last podcast. You was wondering if the other countries was protesting for us as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I found out.
Yeah.
And I found out that France, they're actually protesting about like something like a totally different thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the guy's name. I just saw it, but basically it's a guy that died 4 or 3 years ago,
mm-hmm.
and he basically died almost like same way. Like the cops, there were 3 cops that shot him in the chest, and he basically died the same way. And his last words was, "I can't breathe."
Really?
So they're protesting about that. And it's just like, I don't see how this George Floyd thing,
mm-hmm.
I don't see it being like a setup. Like I personally cannot see it being a setup.
Yeah.
Now, if it's politicized, I do believe they politicized it. I
mm-hmm.
believe it all the way. And I even did some research on the Trayvon Martin case, and I do believe that case was like blown out of proportion, and it wasn't right. Like, but I don't think George Floyd. I don't think that was the setup. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
And as for the protesters, I'm just observing the protesters. I'm observing like some friends I got on social media and some other people.
Mm-hmm.
I seen 2 videos, Mike. I seen one video of this Caucasian female,
mm-hmm.
and she was holding the drill to like the she was holding the drill
as if she's boarding up a window. Yeah, I saw that.
Yes, exactly. And that was some bullshit. And I seen another one of another Caucasian female standing right in front of a Target with the windows bust out, taking a picture.
I guess it's social media.
Exactly. So I'm thinking probably 50% of, I'll say 50% or 40% of protesters
mm-hmm.
are doing this for social media.
Yeah.
Then you have another 30%, probably 20% that might be actors.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have police planning these cement blocks, bricks, all these other stuff. So you might have to pay actors as well. But I think, and then you have the looters. You have people that's taking advantage of this protest. That's trying to get a quick come up, trying to steal these expensive things, sell them, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you probably only have truly 20% that just want to do it for peaceful, like for the peaceful protest.
So watch this.
So it's just like,
so as a result of this, what's next? How does these protests turn into something good for those that are out there with good intentions, in your opinion?
Okay, in my opinion, I don't really think it's going to end in a peaceful manner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me tell you this. You remember when we was on the lockdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember when all the protesters went to, I forgot what state this was, but
mm-hmm.
they went up there to the Capitol with guns.
I think that was Lansing.
And they demand,
yeah, that was in my state.
Yeah. And they demand them to reopen the state.
Yeah.
Right. And somebody made an excellent point. It was like if a lot of these people really cared about like Black lives or the cops, brutality or whatever, they would do the same thing. They will walk up to Washington with guns and demand a change. So
yeah,
I don't. That's the only way I see things changing. Like the protest, you see what he's doing with the protest. He's going to call military down, whatever. I don't see it. I don't see really the protest really making a big difference.
Yeah.
I feel like we as the people, that's why we have the amendment.
Yeah.
We should walk up there with like guns and demand change. Like,
all right.
that's the only way
I appreciate you for sharing that, my man. Let me go and get a couple more people on here. So thanks for sharing your insights. And it's one of the things we're talking this through. So we're going to see what's going to happen. But I appreciate your insight.
Oh man, no problem.
Be good.
You have a good one.
I appreciate that call. So yeah, so not many people. I mean, I would imagine not many people are expecting any type of real significant change. But what I'm noticing in the chat, a lot of people are mentioning about the overall agenda. And I see, somebody there says economic war, and just the fact that there's going to still be a lot of chaos that lies ahead. And that's where I'm thinking, like, are people marching and protesting basically to a dead end? Like, is there anything that can be done that can really bring about change? And that's where, I got some thoughts I'm going to share, but I want to hear from everybody's. And so, but this something I think we need to talk about, just because a lot of people are spending a lot of energy and effort right now. And I want to make sure it's worth their time and energy. Hello, caller. What's your name and where you're calling from?
Hi, this is Casey. I called from Fort Worth, Texas. I called out yesterday, actually.
Yes, sir. What are your thoughts about this protest? Will it end in something beneficial?
Short answer is no. I think this is, like we talked yesterday, it's only a matter of time before the hyperinflation and the collapse comes in. And I was just speaking to one of my friends yesterday who on Facebook who lives in North Carolina, and I told him, I asked him if he's okay because he lived right where the riots are going on. He said, yeah, not much. And I told him, well, get ready because when the food quits coming in, that's when the big riots.
Yeah.
That's when the real riots will start.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I like to study a lot of communist tactics and socialist tactics. And I remember Yuri Bezmenov talking about how once a socialist government, a Marxist government, gets its foot in and gets its final control, a lot of the socialist justice warriors and a lot of the far left liberals, they're the first to go because they're expecting a utopia, and they're going to get a police state, and they're going to freak from it. So one, it's not going to be good for them, and it's going to be bad news for them. And two, this is I don't know. Nobody knows exactly how the one world government will play out. Nobody knows how the Antichrist will rise. Nobody knows all this stuff, but I think this is just we're definitely in the fourth turning. We're about to begin a new era, and it's going to be. And I was just thinking, I know Jesus said there'll be birth pains right before he comes, but this is really all it is. It's just, I guess I don't know how to put it in the correct terms, but the spiritual world is kind of it's getting ready. Jesus is getting ready, and there's just a lot of negative energy and positive energy, love and hate, a lot of friction. And long story short, who knows how it's going to really play out? But I think this is they're making big moves. It's definitely not good for the rioters or the people who are on the other side.
Okay, well, watch this. I'm going to cut you off. Let me get some more people in here. So I appreciate your call and sharing your thoughts. But, to the initial question, you said no real change. So I appreciate you for sharing your thoughts on top of that, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, be good. Yeah, great stuff there. And so, feel free to definitely call in and try to, let's try to get right to the point so I can try to get as many people in as possible for those who want to share their thoughts. And so, will the protest result in any true significant change, or are people marching and protesting to a dead end? I'm gonna kind of nail it down to that, and we'll see what we can do on top of that. And so I think one of the biggest things that everyone is watching realizes that there's a much greater agenda than just the racial war that they're trying to use to divide the population. And because of the greater agenda, I personally think that this is just, one of many distractions that they'll throw out there. Because here's two factors here. If this happens to die down naturally without any true result for any disruption in the globalist agenda and causing problems heading into this political season, then there's going to be more, and George Floyd was not a false flag. It was a true flag of someone who actually is no longer in the land of the living. And this is the result of that, but it's gotten away from the initial spark. The spark was a man's death. And now we have a population of probably hundreds of thousands of people on the streets, of which I would say 30% of the population, 30% of the protesters out there are paid and they're bad actors. So once again, it's a staged event in a sense that this is not a true movement for everybody out there to really bring about change. So I just think it's just, it's a lot of, failed optimism, I think is what it's going to boil down to, because people are out there really sincerely wanting to see some type of change, but the change is needed goes a lot deeper than what is being addressed by a lot of people right now. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. One to Steven. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, my friend. What are your thoughts on this protest? Is it to a dead end, or can it lead to something?
I'm gonna keep it real short, bro. First of all, I'm very sad.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot of heat, but I realize that's not really gonna do me any good, because I used to really study my word about 15 years ago, and a bunch of scriptures crept up on me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
We battle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, wickedness in high places.
Yeah.
So we can't really fight this fight with those types of things. And then I thought about today, the very last scripture in the book of Matthew. I'm not trying to be biblical. I don't even go to church.
No, but hey, the word is a word. So, bring it, my man.
The word is this, man. We had one great commission. The very last scripture in the book of Matthew. And that was to go and share the gospel, spread the word. There are so many people that don't know what's going on right now.
Yeah.
We are living in the future. We're not the revelation, all that stuff. That's not going to be down the road. We're right here. We're living it right now.
Yeah.
And so he says, I remember some scripture where he said, don't worry, don't take thought, don't care about how you're going to be cared for, what you're going to eat, this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
I remember that. All I'm telling you, bro, is that you're a good man. You're a great man. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of people that do not know the word of God. I didn't even grow up in the church.
Yeah.
I just read my Bible and fasted and prayed. So I love you, man. But
appreciate you, my man.
We got to do something now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's always good to hear some truth from the word itself. So I appreciate you for calling and sharing that insight, my man.
I love you, man. You good.
Be good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so definitely a little bit of gospel to shine some true light on this situation. And so, as always, give me a call, share your thoughts, be short and concise. And, can these efforts out here that's being exerted now by the people bring about change? And so I got on the screen here. This is just a rally from today in Paris. And so the Black Lives Matters movement is in Paris as well. The caller mentioned earlier somebody was killed, I guess, to police brutality in there. But look at the people on the streets, they're speaking French and whatever other language they might be speaking in that group there, but yet they're all after the same end result, which I believe is justice and equality. But yet, will it be in a fallen world? I don't think so. So our weapons has to change and our approach has to change. But to what? Hello, caller. Which name are you calling from?
Hey there, Mike. It's Babar from Seattle.
Babar, how you doing, my man? So what are your thoughts on this? Is the efforts put forth by the protesters, will it result in anything beneficial in the long run?
Well, I think the protesters, they're aiming their aggression out at the wrong location. Because they're looting and rioting these stores, but yet it was the government that forced them to stay at home like caged animals.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
And 40 million people out of work, they were already living paycheck to paycheck beforehand, and they're stuck like zoo animals, and they're letting out their frustration. Unfortunately, it's at these
stores and, you know, these small mom and pop shops, if they keep getting raided and looted, they're going to just stop bringing in products to the cities, and it's only going to make the situation worse.
Yeah.
What they need to be doing is throwing the bricks out at the governments who promised to bail them out, but yet they only bailed out billion-dollar corporations, and then the CEOs resign the next day.
Yeah. Now,
of course, they're frustrated.
Now, the only thing with that is the majority of the people in that out there on those streets, they're not aware of the financial matters or the monetary matters behind all of those issues that you just listed. So they wouldn't really know that, unfortunately, because a lot of that information has yet to reach their attention. Because if they really knew what the real culprits or who the real culprits were behind all this, they will be directing their anger towards another direction, I do think.
Oh, if the regular citizen even knew the monetary history or policies, there would be a revolution tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because remember now, your highest wages in the world were Ford Motor Company in 1910, $5 a day.
Yeah.
And you could feed a family of 4. Then you go up to the 60s, you know, even still, people get $10,000 a year. You could still feed a family of 4 on just one paycheck.
Yeah.
Now people live $10,000 a month on 2-3 paychecks.
Yeah.
And they still can't even afford it.
Yeah.
So whenever the people choose to wake up, but they have to realize government is their problem. But also, I think we have a responsibility problem.
Yeah.
We do have a responsibility problem because you see these parents, they're forced to parent now. They're frustrated with their own children. And, you know, you chose to let the government, you know, raise your children.
Yeah.
You want to, you know, we have a responsibility problem.
Yeah.
Because that's the only price for freedom is responsibility.
Right.
And because people don't want to be responsible and they don't want to suffer the consequences for their own actions, this is the lifestyle that we have.
Yeah.
And although I feel their plight, I genuinely do feel their plight. They are frustrated. They are out of work, feeling like caged animals, regulated to death, while these mega corporations are getting bailed out. I feel for them. They have to redirect their anger strictly at government. If the people could hear me, they have to understand it was the government that told them that they had to stay home and they would promise them paychecks.
Yeah.
It wasn't COVID. It wasn't COVID because all these doctors are getting laid off too.
Yeah.
It was the government.
Very true, man. Papa, I appreciate you.
I'll stop my rant.
I know you're good, man. I appreciate your insights. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, keep it up with the channel, man. You're doing a good job.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Thanks.
Alrighty. Bye.
So that's where we're at, man. So a big part of the discussion tonight was based upon a discussion or the information I shared earlier about what's the end result of all this. And that's one of my biggest concerns is because once again, the racial war that's being pushed by the mainstream narrative of it's generational, man. It's been going on for centuries as far as there not being any true equality amongst races in and of itself, but yet there never really has been, according to the paradigm that we all know. So what are we looking to get out of this? And so if we could snap our fingers and have everything different tomorrow, what would that look like? That's where I think people are marching and protesting in regards to this recent event and built up anger throughout the years on top of everything else. And you factor in all the, financial issues, people, whatever. But then again, if you were to ask majority of people, like, what do you want at the end of all this? Most people would probably just say, we want, the officer to kill George Floyd to go to jail for life. And then not be able to offer much else after that because like there's no long-term, not agenda, but no long-term plan that we all can agree upon or actually get back to. But yet, I'm curious to find out what you guys think. Let me get this here. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, what's up, brother? My name is Anthony. I'm calling from California right now, but I'm from Detroit as well.
Okay.
So, brother, it's a lot going on right now. I don't think nothing gonna change. We've been through this before. We've seen this whole story before. And it's not going to change. The only way it's gonna change is we come together and we teach our own, train our own, teach our own, and we build our own. Because coming up in Detroit, it's land. The United States is for sale. We need to be coming together and buy land and put it together and grow. We in a bad marriage with some people who just don't like us. When you're in a bad marriage and you always getting beat by your spouse, people telling you to leave them alone, get away from them, divorce. We need to divorce that part of America who don't want to live with us. They make logical sense that we know that they just don't want us in a relationship. So we need to just break away from that, file for a divorce, and they have to pay us alimony because you just can't leave us like that. They brought us here and they put us in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
So now they just have to, they have to pay for it. So they have to give us reparations. I don't know why ain't nobody talking about that. It's reparations and separation. That's what we need.
Okay.
All right, brother.
I appreciate you, my man. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
All right, man. So, one caller, reparations and separation. So I think I touched on it a little bit earlier. And so one of my things is that, separation, segregating to me is going backwards. Like, it's one of those things where putting ourselves over here, putting them over here, like them, like, once again, like, and that's where I think, this is where I feel like I'm already well outside my stomping grounds on talking about things that, it's a personal opinion, first of all, because we're all in the same boat heading in the same direction. And unfortunately, there's tiers to the boat. And it so happens that people with a little bit more melanin in their skin has been on the bottom portion of the boat, majority of the time we've been on this vessel together, but we're all going the same direction. And the underlying issue is what we all are connected for the most part to and with and by. It happens to be the fact that there's no separating or reparations based upon the fact that the currency in of itself is a major part of it, because we're all, unfortunately, we're all monetary slaves. We're all monetary slaves in the fact that we're enslaved by this current debt-based paradigm. So, as I mentioned last night, there's a good portion of society, they call them the 1%, and they're the ones that right now they're really extremely comfortable. They're getting more and more comfortable by the day because of the financial markets and what they're doing and who they're benefiting, where the majority of the population happen not to be recipients of that directly. And we're the ones that keep the system going. We're the working class, people who get up and run it and work for all of this nonsense. So it's one of the things where unless we're willing to get rid of the root evil, which the money changers are the root evil of this entire system, because everything is all about the green, unfortunately. All right, let me got a couple calls here. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. My name is Matt. I'm calling from Seattle.
Matt from Seattle. What are your thoughts on this? Is this protest? Is the efforts done in vain, or will change come about?
I think that the protests and the riots are two separate things. I think that I heard you say earlier that you think that probably 30% of the protesters are paid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was in Seattle. I walk downtown every day, and I see this big crowd gathering, and I think it's just people that are kind of upset. There's a lot of unrest in the country, as we all know.
Mm-hmm.
But is it going to bring about change? No, I don't really think so, because there's no real solution offered. I think we're kind of witnessing a problem reaction solution event right now, and have been for a while.
Right.
COVID, now this, and to me, the only word that really comes to mind that best describes what we're experiencing is filibuster.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going through like a socioeconomic, cultural filibuster right now, just trying to hold out and prevent any change that's trying to come about organically, and both through, I think Trump is trying to do some good things, and he's being roadblocked like every step of the way. And I think that there's other countries that are trying to do some good things and push us towards a more positive direction for the whole world, get us away from this, the elitist corruption, and push us towards populism. And I think that the only chance that they have right now is to try to essentially filibuster and steal an election, crash the economy, and blame it all on Trump. And so I think that that's kind of what we're seeing right now. This is just another filibuster. People started realizing that the COVID thing is not really a threat. People are quit wearing masks. No one's getting sick. So now what do we have? Now we've got this Floyd event, and whether it's real or not, I don't really think it matters. People are so upset that they want to get out. They want change, but they don't really. There is no solution being offered.
Right.
I don't think there's anything coming anytime soon.
Right. Well, hey, I appreciate you calling, and that's where I'm trying to get to the bottom of this, because I think there should be more talk about a solution, like something written down, something that can be presented during these marches to say, hey, this is what we want. Like, this is what we're going to stay out here until we have A, B, C, D on this list. Until we got something like that, I think everybody out there, with signs pointing and shouting, but once again, people say we need leadership. Joe Biden said we need leadership. Leadership to do what? Like, to go where, to do what, to accomplish what? It's the same old narrative, man. But hey, I appreciate you calling in and sharing your thoughts.
Okay, yeah. Take care, Mike.
It'll be good. Yeah, man. So yeah, and so that was my thoughts today. Like I'm thinking, like, okay, like man, like we're gonna this can be just continuation of the same old thing happening. Someone dies, there's people on the streets until there's another event, and I'm like, it'd be good. Like if people are going to put forth the energy and effort to go out there and demand change, let's come up with a list. Let's have an ideal. And I would think of like, Bill of Rights, Declaration. I mean, we there's documentation, but it's not outdated, but yet something needs to be updated or added or done. I don't know, but I'm like, it'd be good to have an actual itinerary or some type of game plan in a sense. So whatever that's worth. But yet I'm just one man. I ain't figured it out for myself. So hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
I'm calling from North Carolina.
All righty. What's on your mind, my friend? Do you think this protest will result in something, or is it to a dead end?
Well, what I'm thinking was like where like what could we really do right now in shield of this moment? Like could we still, even though there's a lot of scary stuff happening, could we still make a new reality for ourselves? Like make do you still see like online type businesses still working, even with the scary stuff happening?
Yeah, it's still happening because there's plenty of people out there that's creating and sharing and finding ways of adding value. So I think it's everyone's methodology and approach towards doing such is different, but yet the consumption model of everybody consuming everything, that might change because people, they're still spending, but they're not spending as much. And they're spending, unfortunately, Amazon is getting bigger and better and better, but there's still opportunity out there for some. Yeah. But a lot of people are not, entrepreneurs are not nature.
So if this all goes bad and they shut everything down, they're going to turn everything back on again, though, right?
It is, and if there's a blackout, like I mentioned last night, if everything goes out, what they might turn it back on to might be something a little bit different because I don't see them, because if everything is everything we're experiencing now is all a cover up for a reset, restructuring, or whatever the financial monetary issues we're having, whatever will be presented after all this unwinds will be totally new that we're all going to probably have to adjust to, even more so outside of the things we're experiencing now. So I'd imagine it being something towards their globalist agenda, unfortunately.
But there's got to be some type of solution. I hope everything works well. Thank you for talking to me.
Yes, my man. I appreciate you for calling. Yeah, and so it sounds like, once again, I think we're one of many people that would like to have that answer, that one thing or two things or three things or whatever it is that could be a shining light in the midst of all this darkness. Because of course, on the foundational side of things, spirituality, like right now, especially over the last couple of months, going through all this, for those that bought into it and those who did not, everyone was confronted with the reality of like, this has never been happened before, that we've been locked in our house and there's an invisible enemy out there and there are people actually dying. So I know, for including myself, is one of the things where, my prayer game was, strong going into it and got stronger in the midst of it, just because of just the need for wisdom in the midst of all this chaos. And of course, that's where, it comes in handy to have deposit a little bit in your spiritual account for a sense of comfort and peace amidst all this storm. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Mike, Tony from Oakland, brother.
Tony,
how you doing?
Let me hear from you, my man. Is this done in vain, or is there going to be a solution after all of this?
The only solution there is, and you have to go look at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How do things change with you?
Yeah.
When they hit you in your pockets.
Yeah.
We need to start hitting them in their pockets. Boycott what they got going. And once we start doing that, they'll wake up to realize that we are serious about what we want.
Mm-hmm.
We are the ones that control this, not them. We're allowing them to control us. And reminds me of the Illuminati card where Trump's sitting above and everybody's in the valley walking off the edge of the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you guys are just need to wake up and marching and protesting. We've done that for 400 years. What's happened?
Yeah.
Nothing. We continue to do the same thing. Oh, what's the stupidity?
Yeah.
What's the definition of it? We need to wake up.
Yeah. Yeah, and so here's the thing, like so that information you share, I would imagine a good portion of people realize that is ideal. But the question is, like how, at this point, given the fact that we're in the midst of a situation, how does that information get to the people's hands to look inside, to then realize what's going on and realize the game is rigged against us, and we need to create our own rules within this game? I mean, how do we get that out? That's the thing. So
they control both sides.
Huh?
There is no out. They control the both sides.
Yeah.
You got people protesting in the streets. You got police protesting with the protesters. You got agents protesting with the protesters. You got everybody out there, and everybody's like, "Yeah, we doing this for the right cause." No, the cause is ignore them. Leave them alone. Maybe they'll go away. Don't vote. Don't give them the elections. Don't go up to the stores. Every Friday, you need to boycott going to the gas station. Everybody in the whole entire world.
That's a unified approach. If that could be a unified approach, it definitely would be changed a lot sooner than what's going on now in the streets. So, yeah, and that's the harsh reality of what type of action steps need to be taken in order to really hit them where it hurts, which happens to be the money changers themselves. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Until then, it ain't gonna work. Nothing's gonna work.
Right.
All right, brother.
Appreciate you, my man. Appreciate you.
Have a good day. Appreciate you. Bye.
Yeah, that's hit them where it hurts, and them being the money changers. For those that don't know, the money changers, the people who've orchestrated this current paradigm since we've had this current central bank model for sure and beyond. Boots on the ground. Appreciate the love offered to the channel. It says boycott Christmas and every other American holiday spending. Organized boycotts. That would be an actionable step right there, but it's a matter of getting that information out. And so I think in an approach like that, and so that's, I'm feeling that type of step there, but it's getting that information out and the why people should do that in this current environment. Like if somehow, some way, and that's where the lack of education and financial literacy, monetary literacy comes into play, because once again, we've been bred to consume and not to produce. But you got a lot of people who've been groomed into the system as far as depending on somebody to make it what happened for them, to where that person's not going to be so willing to take the responsibility for their own financial futures on themselves at this current moment in the midst of being unemployed and all that stuff. So yeah, that's why, these type of things here make sense to those that are awake and realize the fraudulent nature of our monetary system. But it's those that still sleep in the paradigm. It's like, how can we get to them? Like, that's where there may not be anything, but yet I think we can still talk about it. Hello, caller. Which name are you calling from?
Hey, Mike, it's Pete from Colorado.
Pete from Colorado. I appreciate you calling. Protests will prevail in something or nothing.
I don't know for sure,
yeah.
But all I can say is you're talking about solutions. Did I ever tell you that I was the big-time black market criminal?
Big-time black market criminal. I don't think you told me that one. No, give me the rundown on that.
I absolutely am.
Uh-huh.
I have chickens, and I sell, maybe 10 dozen eggs a month.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me a big-time illegal black market criminal.
Good point. Self-sustainability.
I am. I'm just coming clean.
Yeah.
As far as solutions go, all the things and all the people and the subculture, and all the solutions of what regular people can do.
Mm-hmm.
Have a garden. Be a big-time black market criminal like I am.
Mm.
Don't participate.
Don't participate.
If you're in a place where you're not allowed to have a garden, you better move. I mean,
yeah.
No, but why would you participate? That's what I've noticed. Everyone talks about the power and all this stuff. Where I live, people have just been ignoring the rules, and there aren't that many police. They're powerless to enforce it.
Yeah.
You just don't have to go along with things.
Yeah. Don't participate. Yeah. That's yeah.
Don't participate. I mean, and we can't change the world. We can't change what everyone else does. But if I have some hens and I can't eat all my eggs,
mm-hmm.
I'm going to be daring. and I will defy the laws of the state of Colorado, and I will sell illegal, untaxed, unlicensed eggs to willing buyers on the black market.
Yeah, that right there, and that's, yeah, I like that, my man. I like that. Whew, yeah, now it's a matter of getting that type of mindset, if it is possible, out to the masses, to those that are on the streets right now, downtown Detroit, protesting for change, not realizing that change starts within them, and it has a lot to do with not participating in the system that's been set up against them.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead, sir.
You know, who hires the police in Detroit?
Who hires the police in Detroit? Let me see. Who hires them? I don't know the details of how they go about getting their job, but the people, they hired, or supposedly.
The city of Detroit?
Well, supposedly the people. I mean, the people supposedly run the city, but yet I don't think that's the case.
Well, I don't think so either. I think it's run by a bunch of virtue signaling elitists that don't ever have to suffer the consequences of their decision making.
Correct. I'd agree. Yeah. And
so why not burn the place down,
Well, the bad part about Detroit is Detroit as a city in and of itself is already well hollowed out to where there's not many people there directly due to being outpriced and everything else. But how about New York City? And how about the other major metropolitan cities, those type of areas?
Well, let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
Since the primary is the only election that matters, how has voting worked to fix these problems?
Voting has not worked whatsoever because we've been given the same people, relatively speaking, and it's from the same school of thought. So it doesn't work the way it's been presented to us to this point.
It's just like rich, elite academics who tell you. It's really insulting to me because I'll be honest, I live surrounded by them, but they treat people and talk about them like helpless children that could only ever prosper by the benevolence of their goodwill.
Yeah.
And that's insulting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
And voting isn't going to change anything.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sick of that.
Right.
You could have a garden.
Yeah. Pete, man, I appreciate you calling as always. Good to hear your voice, boss man.
Always, sir.
Be good.
You too.
You too. Oh, man. Yeah. Don't participate. Man. So just from hearing all of these comments and thoughts, just grabbing little bits of nuggets and pieces from everybody. And man, it's a lot of nuggets and information shared tonight on action type steps that people can take for themselves first. And that's where, okay, let me share a little thoughts, because not only in the agendas of these movements and these organizations, i.e. the Black Lives Matter. Several years ago when that first came about, I think it was probably Trayvon Martin. I'm not sure if it was before that. I never paid attention to it, unfortunately. But yet I was very suspicious of the fact that it just was mainstream news everywhere. CNN, all the major news stations was covering this particular movement on top of everything else. I'm thinking like, why now? And it so happened to be presidential cycle time frame as well, and politics or whatever. And I'm thinking like, man, how many of those people out there are actually marching for a good cause or their own agenda? And from that point on, I realized that there was every summer, there was some type of white black event. And then it was a movement, some steps and preaching. And I'm thinking like, man, this is it's becoming an ongoing trend of like, damn, like there has to be something different. Then I realized like, oh, this is a part of the restructuring process of they're trying to bait and switch us and eventually make this some type of racial war, which it looks like this might head into. But then I realized that, man, like this current system it's starting to leak at the cracks on many fronts, not only monetarily and everything else, but socially. We're in a point now where one of my biggest concerns that I started off earlier mentioned is that due to the fact that all these movements have been infiltrated by very bad people, there will probably be military boots on the ground. And what I think I pray to God does not happen is that some of these bad actors provoke the military in a violent way, and there's a confrontation between the military and the citizens, and there's some mass shootings or something like that, and there's like some type of event that leads to outright civil war. And that's one thing that I'm really concerned about, because it's going to be military, the law enforcement, and then the people, all in one hot area, and that will not play out well, because if it gets to that point, then I've never witnessed something like that in my life. So what type of world will we live in then if we come to a situation like that? But that's one thing that I was thinking about that could result if these protests continue with no real strategy or game plan on what the desired outcome is with their efforts and energy. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike, it's low blood pressure from Corpus Christi. How's it going tonight?
Corpus Christi in the bit. I'm doing good, my friend. What are your thoughts? Is this march going to result in something or not?
Man, let me tell you something real quick about that last caller
Yeah,
that had the chicken.
Yeah.
Hey, just ask him if he has any chicken feet, because I'm trying to have another baby. And you make a little chicken foot soup. Have you ever had that?
No, I have not.
I'm working at number 7, Mike. Come on, help me out here.
Number 7. No, are you serious or what?
Yeah. Come on, Mike. I know the tricks. I got. Hey, you know what they say? I'll tell you a trick. I don't know if you have sons or daughters. If you want a son, you get a rubber band and you go around one of them. Mm-hmm. And then if you want daughters, you put a rubber band on the other side.
Okay. I don't know nothing about that. But for those watching, Mr. Low Blood Pressure has 6 children, and he mentioned he's going for his 7th. So
I need the chicken feet, but tell the guy to put socks on them, because the feet, they get too dirty. Those chickens, they're kind of nasty.
Oh my goodness, man! What are your thoughts of this protest? Is it going to result in something, or is it just smoke and mirrors, or what?
I don't know, Mike. It's hard to say, because they're sitting there burning everything down. I don't know. Then you showed all those bricks that they placed all magically, everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think. I think the only thing we could do is citizens, but we're not going to do it. We all have to walk away from the dollar, Mike. There's only 2 things we could do. Walk away from the dollar and go empty out your bank account. Take every cent out of the bank. Everybody, all together, all those protesters, go hit Wells Fargo and take every cent out. They'll do more in 1 hour than the police will be on their knees. The government will be on their knees, begging people, please. We'll do whatever you say.
Yeah. Hey, and I was thinking, like the video I did earlier, I was talking about, as long as everyone continues to pay their taxes and to top up their portfolios for retirement, those 2 things there is what will keep the powers that be over our monetary system in control. And until people are willing to make some tough decisions collectively on those things, as well as other things, shared tonight, ain't nothing. It's not much going to change, unfortunately. So
yeah.
But yet, it's always good to talk about, and hopefully.
All right, you too. But
appreciate you, man.
What you just said right now, I don't even think that's enough, Mike, because they just print. They just print and print and print.
Yeah.
We need to take, as long as we can't take that power away from them.
Yeah.
We can't do nothing about it. All right, Mike.
Good point, my friend. Appreciate you.
All right. Have a good night. Thanks for taking
be good.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, interesting, man. He said low blood pressure is going for 7. Woo-wee. Oh man. Anyway, so yeah. So overall consensus from tonight's back and forth from those that called in, as well as those in the chat, is that the efforts being put forth in the form of protesting will not really result in change. But my concern is that it may agitate. It will probably, end up hurting more of what is intended to be beneficial for this overall movement, to where, because of the bad actors that have infiltrated, it's hard to tell who's genuine, who's not. And then once again, by the end of this week, we're going to know if military will be involved. And if once we got the boots on the ground, as they initially wanted to happen anyway, then what? There's the likelihood of there not being some type of conflict between the citizens and the military is very slim. And then if something does happen, that's all I can say. I don't know what to say. But then again, that's checkmate, game over. Like, the chance the people lost, like we lost, like that's how catastrophic things can get. Anyway, missed a call. I'll take one more call, then we're gonna dial back. And so I'm not sure if there are any thoughts for me to share in the chat directly. But here we go. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Mike. Hi. I'm in Milwaukee. Yeah, I called in earlier. There's something I just wanted to mention to you.
Okay.
The attorneys for the gentleman George Floyd, Ben Crump
and Lee Merritt. You know, they're seeking assistance from the United Nations. Okay, this is not a good thing.
Yeah,
because ultimately, what this is going to lead to, bruh, is this is going to lead to foreign intervention on the United States soil. All of this is leading to boots on the ground. U.S. soldiers won't do it, but if they can get other soldiers, everything that's happening in other countries is coming here. So I just wanted to point that out, man.
Yeah,
seeking help when is not a good thing.
Right. And so that information you shared about his lawyers seeking or getting consultation or financial aid or some type of funds from the UN, is that so? Where'd you see that at? That's something that's released or something?
You can go to TMZ and see that they're seeking intervention because they don't feel like the United States is responding accordingly.
Okay.
And the problem is that this is all leading up to, along with what Donald Trump has said, it's just about putting boots on the ground. You know, that's unconstitutional, man.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking at that. So, hey, I appreciate you for sharing that because I wasn't even aware of that. And so I definitely will check into that further. So thanks for bringing that to my attention, my friend.
Yes, sir.
All right. Be good.
You too.
Interesting. I was not aware of that one. So something worthy of checking into. So with that being the case, we're going to dial back close to the hour point. But yeah. I think these type of discussions where we can further inform one another, but eventually, hopefully, get this information out to those that are on the streets protesting, you know, and encourage some type of game plan, you know, because marching to no drumbeat, but anticipating change is not going to be beneficial for anyone in the long run, but it stands a chance to be very, very problematic in the days ahead. Because of the bad actors amongst the good in the group. The wheat and the tares are marching together, and the agenda, I think, unfortunately, favors the bad actors because they've been compensated. And so they probably, you know, for that, you know, that's where the Soros and all those individuals that funds these type of bad activity, their pockets are pretty long and strong. So those people that are getting compensated for acts of terrorism amongst the population, crowd there, they can actually they'll probably stick around a lot longer because they're being compensated. Therefore, they'll be tearing up stuff. Therefore, the military being called and all the things that come with that is more likely possible because of that, and problems will ensue. But yeah, I thought I'd have this discussion tonight, see what will come from it. I heard a lot of great insights out of this. Now it's a matter of putting it together in some type of documentation that people can, if you go march for, saying, I see signs says no justice, no peace. Okay, that was last year's march too. No justice, no peace. I see Black Lives Matters and like these statements that have no ending to them. It's just like, let's put some commandments. You know what I'm saying? Some rights. What is the objective when you done marching? What do you want to see? Type of documentation. And I haven't come up with a word for it, but yet I'm going to keep racking my brain around it until I come up with something. But anyway, enough of me ranting. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with me tonight. If you enjoyed the back and forth, don't be afraid. Donate a thumbs up. Just hit that button beneath here. Share this video if it was of any benefit to anybody. And back at it again tomorrow. There's going to be more than enough things to talk about on all fronts. And so if you guys have any articles, any subject matters you want to touch on, leave it beneath this video in the comment section, or go over to the Twitter or Instagram and connect with me there, and let's talk about this. So definitely open it up to you guys to discuss what you guys would like to talk about as well. So other than that, people, be blessed. Peace.